So, welcome everyone to our final evening of District 21's Pathways bedtime story. I got to tell you, I haven't gotten that right all week. It's a special week, and we lure you in with the promise of a bedtime story. But really, what we're doing is having a great time going through one level each night, talking about pathways and what it can do for you. And I'm so excited tonight because tonight we're going to wrap it all up. And our special guest tonight is going to show you, demonstrate for you, how you can take a real life purpose and apply it to pathways, working backwards from a goal and finding all those projects that are going to tuck really neatly into the accomplishment of that goal. So good evening, my name is Virginia Keast. I am the Program Quality Director at District 21. I'm really excited to have everyone here for this final Pathways Bedtime Story session. And on that note, I would like to introduce you to someone very special who's going to lead us tonight. Have you ever thought about intentionally using pathways for a real life reason? Imagine using pathways to tackle a project or a goal you've meant to pursue, but haven't. For instance, you could aim to build awareness of EMT fatigue or organize a workshop or an offsite that you've been planning. Well, Sandra Savage, who many of us know, has been a Toastmaster for over 35 years, is using her 10th path to prepare for the launch and marketing of her novel Cadence. The story is about a young boy who stutters and is bullied until his Morse code skills are discovered while he's being held captive in a North Korean prison camp. With her wealth of experience as a certified project manager for Adobe, Macromedia, and other software companies for 16 years, Sandra is going to offer practical insights on how to break down your goals into manageable projects using pathways, get it, with purpose. Her focus, using pathways as a path to publish a cookbook, as she recently did with her book, With Love. And maybe you can even see that in the background on her screenshot. Her practical approach to pathways will provide you with plenty of creative ideas for your pathways projects that you can easily implement. So prepare to actively engage with Sandra's presentation. Have a pen and paper ready to jot down unique ideas to have fun completing your goal. Like me, I'm ready. So please join me in welcoming our guest host tonight, Sandra Savage.
Thank you. And I have to laugh, Colby. You make my heart sing, running and getting your piece of paper and you're ready. We've been starting off this week with a story either at the beginning or at the end. And being the tease that I am, I'm going to split mine down the middle. Let me start by telling you a little bit about me. Now, I have always felt the need to be heard, and a lot of us don't feel that way. No matter how many years we've been in Toastmasters or the command of a classroom or what have you, oftentimes we just don't feel that anyone really hears our voice. And being a firstborn Minnesota girl, Norwegian, we aren't really expected to talk about ourselves on top of that. So I had pretty low expectations. I went to a very small parochial school, kind of kept my head down as much as I could for 6 feet tall. But then I got a job offer in California in high tech. And it came really fast. So I quick packed up the house, the 2 kids, the husband, and we got everything put into a U-Haul truck. And I came across a box just as we're ready to leave the house in Minnesota. And I found this box and I go, I don't have time, just throw it on the truck. We threw it on the truck, headed west, started the job a few days later, and everything settled in nice and quietly, ish, until the big earthquake in 1989. 2 things tipped over in my house. A reel-to-reel tape recorder, and for those of us who remember what those are, and this box that I didn't unpack. And all of a sudden, all these letters that my dad had written while he was in the Navy at 17 came piling out of this box. And all of a sudden, I was so inspired. And being a storyteller from a very young age, or as my mom would say, a liar, I got the germ of an idea to be a writer. But you know what? Writing a novel is hard. I will never complain about the price of a novel ever again. But a seed was planted, and I ended up leading a women's writing group for 7 years. And then Pathways came along, and I started helping people all over the world with their dreams, not fulfilling my own. Let me tell you about some of these dreams because I don't want to just focus on publishing. I want you to think about what's going to be presented tonight and how it applies to you, because you're the most important person in the room right now. I have customers that I'm working with right now who are developing their app, their author platform, doing podcasting, doing marketing, doing graphic design, brand management. I've got a gal who's starting up a high school for children with neurodiversity who don't learn with school books and lectures. They learn by doing hands-on. So she has to put together this whole big, thick binder of information from the maintenance guy to, what the experiments are, what the staffing and the budget and so forth. She's using a Pathway to do that. How about for helping someone come over from another country? I have a gal who came over from Afghanistan, and I'm also working with 2 Ukrainian ladies who are trying to bring the skills that they had to learn as a new immigrant into a new country and help other women. They're paving the road forward for them. Or how about if you want to start a community garden? How are you going to organize? Where do you get your seeds? Who's going to own and maintain all the equipment? How are you going to handle disputes? Where's the budget? Things like that. Think about the whole path. Or if you're going to do a charity marathon, how are you going to ask the city for a permit to close down all the streets and clean up after you? What if you want to be able to build, as one other gal I'm working with, secondhand or second chance business attire using remnants from fabric manufacturers. She's a fashion designer. All of her proceeds go to help women get out of homeless shelters, get out, get a nice suit on, and go out for an interview and get a job at no cost to them. I have a gal over in Ireland, Judith, you know Kate. She's working on ethical procurement, making sure that everywhere along the stage of getting raw materials all the way to shipping it to the grocery store or the fabric store or wherever it is, everybody is being treated humanely. Also podcasting, YouTubing, and of course, life coaching, which is a big thing right now, but it is a very untapped and very necessary skill to have. So we're going to go through an agenda that has only 5 pieces. And you say 5, and I chose that well because we're going to talk about you and what you're going to do to get ready, and then how you build the infrastructure and get noticed, and then go to the end. But can anybody tell me what the acronym for that is? Get in print. I felt it necessary before I did moderate a panel discussion on the publishing field to publish something. So I had all these great recipes, and I had a target audience. I had what kind of recipes I wanted to do, how many I wanted to put together, what my budget was, what I knew I'd have to do versus hire out, did I have any limitations on money? What did I expect out of revenue? I had to kind of build reality. And then, of course, every author loves to write the end, and we're going to make sure that you end your path with success. So let's start off with your platform. What does that mean? Well, what is it that you really want to do? Why? Why is it important to you? How important is it to you? And then know, why do you have the credentials, or are you going to obtain them as part of your path? Do you need guidance? Well, the answer is yes. From how many and from whom, that's up to you, but it's always good to have that second or third opinion and to get input, which is what I like about Toastmaster meetings and getting speech evaluations, is we're really helping each other out become better people. Who's your target audience? And with that, do you know how to talk to them? Are you talking too intellectually or maybe with a little bit too much gushy feely, fluffy, juffy words? You have to find the right language to talk to your audience. You need to know not only the words, but how they want to have information presented to them. What are your limitations? As I mentioned, not only just budget, but your skills, what you are able to do, what you're able to hire out, what you can let go of. That's the hardest part for me, is letting go of something. And how are you going to validate that this is really a worthwhile project? Is it burning in your heart to get it done? Do you have people who really need it? Know why you're doing it. And that will really help drive your speeches, by the way, because you'll be excited to give speeches, and you won't have, if you have this platform, you'll have no shortage of speech ideas. The next thing is I recommend to choose your path. Now, there are currently 11 paths, but we're going to turn them upside down and only really focus on the 6 that are going to stay, and then we're going to use one for an example tonight. Of the 6 paths, or of the 11, I like to put them into 3 categories: me, we, us. Me are the paths that you can do all by yourself. You don't have to. You can get help. And of course, your club is going to help. And you can always ask for help, whether it's in your club or by an expert. But you really can do these on your own. And these are 3 paths that are continuing on to the new program next year. Then there are the we projects that are team related, where you complete a project or an event or some type of something that's going to build your team together and get them motivated to work together. And then we have the big one, the leadership one. By the way, dynamic leadership is the one path left in that for next year, and is a great one for club officers to use to write their successor plan for next year. So it's going to be easier to kind of get rid of that job and turn it over to somebody else, because they're going to have everything they need to know before they take the job, especially for VPPRs. This is crucial with all those passwords and conventions and so forth. For the sake of printing or publishing, or for most projects, most people are going to choose visionary communications. Presentation mastery and visionary communications are the top 2 paths in the entire world. Why? Because they're a great place to start, but they also give you a lot of latitude. And by the way, you can do your paths over and over and over again and only pay for them once. So if you've already done visionary communications and you want to do it again, but for a different project, a different goal of yours, it's yours. You own it. You just have to kind of knock it off the leaderboard as done and start over. But we're not in this for badges. We're in this for growth. I happen to love visionary communications because of the level 5 project. Again, we're starting at the end, looking at what's the last project you have to do, like we were discussing last night. The last 2 projects you have in level 4 and level 5. These kind of will drive what path you choose. Visionary communications, of all those examples that I gave you on my coaching clients, works for every single one of them. In fact, I can't think of any project you'd want to do that you wouldn't want to develop your vision, your platform. So now, in visionary communications, like all paths, there are 5 levels. But within each path, there are a certain number of required and a certain number of elective. In visionary communications, there is a total of 42, but you only have to do 17. But you paid for it. You can do all 42. If that's what you need to get it done and get it done to your satisfaction, not to your VPE's satisfaction, but to your satisfaction, and be honest with yourself. And as I was telling Heather last night, if you cheat, the only person who loses is yourself. So it doesn't do anything to rack up points on the leaderboard. This is for your own personal growth. I start, as I mentioned, at level 5. Develop your vision, figure out what you want to do, and then look at your other major projects. Communicate change, develop a communication plan, and then also at the end, you do your reflect on your path, and then you have your required ones starting over in level 1 and level 2. We'll get to some of these, not every single one. We don't have 4 hours tonight. We're going to go through this quickly, but I'm going to pick out the really good nuggets for you. Now, the projects for preparing your platform is writing a speech with purpose. Why not get up in front of your club, learn from the very get-go how to write a good speech? And that's probably the most important thing you can do for yourself. Learn how to write a good speech, one that gets your audience really pulled in right away. Make a connection within 8 words, no pressure. 8 words before you potentially lose your audience, and then you got to try and get them back. So don't say, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, blah, 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 blah. Sorry. I've been in Toastmasters for 35 years. I've heard it a few times. Get up and talk about what you want to do. Why is this important to you? Why is it important for you to write a book about a young boy who stutters? Because just like me, he wants to be heard. He just has a different challenge than I do. Then your next speech is your icebreaker, and you're going to get up and you're going to talk about, this is what I'm going to do. This is the help I need from you. I want your honesty, your feedback, and I may call on you if you're an industry expert in finance, legal, marketing, podcasting, what have you. We have such a wealth of knowledge in our clubs. Give your icebreaker. Then work on your body and vocal variety. Now, if you're going to be doing a podcast, how important is your body language? Some of us talk more with our hands than we do with our mouth. So if you're trying to use your voice to convey your message, that is your number 1 priority. But it never hurts to learn how to use your hands effectively. More importantly, not how to be distracting, which is so many people go overboard on their gestures. Vocal variety also means keeping your mouth shut once in a while. And as Sheila knows, the power of the pause and punch. And she also inverts it. Sometimes you punch and you pause to let it soak in. So that is one check that she taught me a long time ago, and I love it. Plus, I like saying pause and punch. Get evaluation. Get honest evaluation. We are paying you for your opinion. And how many other people are going to ask you, in fact, pay you to give them your opinion? So we need your honest opinion. And let me just give you a suggestion that someone gave me. When you give an evaluation, give it future tense. If you give this speech again, if you're going to try this, what if you tried this instead? Remember, it's only through your ears and your eyes that you are giving your feedback. So also use it in the I'm saying it to you, not being the preacher. And then do an evaluation of someone else so that you get comfortable being able to say and understand, but also it really sharpens your skills as an observer, which is important because I find myself evaluating myself a lot now that I've learned some of more advanced evaluation techniques. And then do another evaluation and feedback. And you can give that same speech over and over again in some of these, but why not keep developing your plan? Let's talk about your research. This is, oh boy, novelists love research, especially if it means they don't have to write. So I can go off for days about all kinds of pretty useless stuff. But I want to give you some little secrets. First of all, you want to build a list of things that you need to research and that you're going to need to do, and you don't have to pay a dime. Go to Amazon.com and look at the table of contents for a book that you see is interesting. There's a list. Go to an online course, and you don't have to take the course, just look at the syllabus. You can also ask Google Scholar, which I like because it only gives you back published papers. It does not give you advertising, marketing, slanted, political, anything. It's published papers. So it's a great resource. And of course, Google Alerts, because there's so much being propagated on the internet every day, you can't keep up with it. But if you ask Google to alert you to any link of something that got indexed the day before that's in your field of interest, it'll proactively send you an email. Of course, AI, I like to use it more of as a research tool and verification of thought, although I've asked it to make my speeches sound a little friendlier. And another one is just ask, interview people, especially people who are in your same area. I have 2 authors that I love, and I've made it a point, well, now 3. I'm going to tell you about my newest one that I became friends with. Not only are they able to help me with information on stuttering and about POWs, but when I finally publish my book, I'm going to interview them. And I'm going to link to their website. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to link back to mine, and all of a sudden, my audience goes to their audience, or their audience comes to me. So I get their sphere of influence. And know who your target audience is. Ask them what they need. Be open to changes. And Virginia and I were talking about this before the meeting. So much is changing so rapidly right now. We do really need to stay on top of things in order to be relevant. Also, look at what your competition is doing. Know what they're doing that's different than you, what's the same as you, figure out where you want to put your efforts, but also look at your companions. For example, if you're going to go buy a pancake mix at the grocery store, where are you going to find your maple syrup if you're not in Canada? You're going to find it in the same aisle. You're going to find them right next to each other. You want to find things that complement each other. A friend of mine is doing a podcast. I said, look at who your audience is also listening to, because you want to appeal to them in the similar way that they'll carry over from this guy over to you. So look at also your companions as well as your competition. I have, and Virginia will put in the chat at the end, a folder that she provided to me of all kinds of resources, including this PowerPoint presentation. But I also have decks of cards, because you can only play the deck that's dealt to you. So if you choose Visionary Communications, you're going to pull out these cards and pull out all the white cards. Level 1, Level 2, Level 3, Level 4, 5, and you reflect on your path. And then you pick out 2 or more yellows. That's your Level 3s. 1 or more of your Level 4, 1 or more of your Level 5. Set the others to the side, and just in case you change your mind and want to do that anyways. And then you're going to start to map them out to your project by working your schedule backwards. Look at when you want to be done by, figure out how long each project's going to take, and then hog all the time with your VPE to get on the speech schedule. So some of the projects that you're going to do in doing your research is get a mentor. Level 2 does not mean talking about your Toastmasters mentor. It means go out and find a mentor who can guide you. and talk to your club, inform us of how you benefited and how you would help them or suggest to them that they work with a mentor to get the information they need. Your research and present, which is a great project, again, a good excuse to do research, but you can also start to present your material. And if it's factual based, you need to know how to cite your resources in an interesting manner as well. Develop your vision is also a great project for you to work on. And of course, develop your vision is in level 5. You're going to keep flushing that out. Your communication style. If you're going to talk to this person, you're going to use this voice. If you're going to lead this group of people, you're going to lead them this way. Why? Because it works. Don't give your Myers-Briggs report. Give us what you need to do to get to where you need to go. Okay, let's talk about your infrastructure. This is your talking to your audience, basically. Who is your audience? What are their expectations? Now, I do not need to describe to you what a typical Toastmasters meeting is like in tonight's meeting. We don't need that. So don't say things to your audience they don't need to know, or don't skip important things they do need to know, like facts and figures if you're making an assertion. I mentioned who is your competitor and complement. And then let's say you're writing a book. How did I do it? Well, there's 37 different genres. I had to know who the audience was, what the word count was, what the design trends are, how I wanted to deliver it, if I wanted it to be only print or an ebook. Get to know what your tropes are. Get to know your industry is basically what I'm saying. Plan out all the details. Put out your log, define your log line. As an author, this is the promise of the premise. My book is about a young boy who stutters. Brilliant. But nobody gives him the time of day because he stutters. And when he gets captured and put into a POW camp in North Korea, guess what? They find out he knows how to do Morse code. And all of a sudden, he is the great communicator. So that is what I'm trying to do as far as my platform and why it's important to me and who I'm talking to and what type of book it is, how long the book is going to be, things like that. I'm going to create an outline and a structure, and I'm going to keep using you to help me make sure I'm doing it right before I spend years and years and years going down the wrong path. So use your Toastmasters group to consistently check in and help you and keep on schedule. Okay, some of the projects, storytelling. That's why we're here tonight. We all love a good story. And storytelling, you know why we like storytelling? And then it's as simple as that. We are all curious. We want to know why, how. And then, okay, work your connections. Like I mentioned with the 2 authors I'm working with, they're going to help me, but also they're going to introduce me to important people like editors, agents, publishing houses. Sheila knows this. She's published 2 books. Prepare to interview does not mean going out on a job interview. It means being prepared to interview someone. If you're going to be doing a podcast, learn how to interview. Learn how to work with your audience on the questions, but don't ask them for the answers. You want to be as surprised, and then as your audience is with what they tell you. And learn how to communicate change, especially if you're working with someone else or a team of people. How are you going to let them know, oops, we got to change this, and it means we're going to change our website and all these other things? How are you going to manage this whole project successfully? How are you going to keep on schedule? What's going to be your momentum at the end of the day? For me, it's a Milky Way bar. I get 2 to after tonight. I reward myself for a job well done. And I'm a pretty harsh critic on myself. So giving myself 2 is because I'm going to tell you the second half of the story in just a minute. Get noticed. This is your social media. This is not only making your connections, but a media plan. Where is your audience going to find you? How often do they want to talk to you or hear from you? What's their preferred method of communication? Is it email? Is it a blog? Is it a website? Is it something in the physical mail? By the way, I want to encourage you, and I have a link to it in the share folder as well, to my special Facebook page that I started building a couple months back called Be Heard. And this is because I am trying to be better heard myself and help others be heard. And that's the whole thing behind my novel. But in Be Heard, I have inspiration cards, and being a former graphic designer, I have a lot of fun too. I also have in that folder a calendar that's an Excel spreadsheet. Let's say you want to be done by next June with your goal. Virginia, I'm going to put you on the spot. You're going to do a workshop. How are you going to work that backwards to get it done? Or if this is something for your club and you want to make sure that you get people in certain times of the year because it's dues renewal, or there's some type of an incentive to have an open house, don't call it an open house, call it a workshop or bedtime stories. People are more apt to come to those. Plan your schedule out. What I used to do in the old days, well, a couple years back, I actually got a wall calendar, the one with the pretty pictures of flowers on the top, because Judith and I love flowers. And on the bottom was the days of the week of each month. And I would take 2 of my pretty little envelopes and I'd put them on each month. And then I would take all the cards for the projects I was going to do, and I'd put 2 on each month. And then I would met with my VPEs, got them scheduled. I was then kind of pressured, which is a good thing to do. Get an accountability partner by just telling somebody what you're going to do, because they're going to be curious and they're going to want you to succeed. After I finished that project in Pathways, I would put the Post-it card back into the envelope, seal the envelope, eat a Milky Way bar, and move on to the next one. So I had a visual way of tracking my progress, not on the computer, but on that calendar that was right there by where I brushed my teeth every day. Some of the projects for getting noticed: develop your communication plan. I mentioned last night, your visual aids in level 3 can be your logo, your podcast icon. It could be whatever is identifying you. It doesn't have to be a flip chart. So you can use your effective visual aids for a lot of other reasons other than that. Storytelling, number 1, is the best skill to learn. Make your connections, manage your projects, and then when you get to the T in the end and you're ready to go to print, or you're ready to finish up your project, review, adjust. If you did a bad job, do it again. If you didn't like the way your speech came out, or you got enough feedback that says, I really want to try this again before I go in front of the city and ask for permits, do it again. There is no restriction on how many times you can give the same speech over and over again. Do your fine tuning, make it better, and use your deliver social speeches, because not everybody gets married last month, right, Sheila? Instead of giving a wedding toast, why not use it to thank the people who helped you on your project, your goal, and give them a formal speech in a Toastmasters meeting? Thank them. That's a skill we all can, I think we'd all like to have more people saying thank you. Recap and document what you did, because why? Not only will it help you on on your path when you tell it to either your club or to another club, but it'll help you avoid things that you forgot you did right or wrong the last path or the last time you did this. So write down what you did well and what you want to improve on so that you can continually improve and not just start over at zero every time. And with that, I have a few last secrets and we're done. You want to be as efficient as possible, especially if you're driven. And you want to figure out some math in your head between your goal and how many clubs you belong to and how many times they meet each month, and do the math. If you don't have enough opportunities to speak in a club, which, by the way, after one club heard over in Dublin, Ireland about Pathways This Way, no one could get on the agenda for 2.5 months. They were packed that far in advance because they were driven to get their projects done. You may have to present outside of your club. And with Zoom, you can record your meeting. You can even record your evaluation and share that with your VPE if your VPE needs proof. But you don't need to legally even submit an evaluation to Toastmasters for your speeches. That is between you, your evaluator, and your improvement. So figure out how many meetings you go to a month, how many speeches you're going to give, how many clubs you're in. Ask to speak at another club. You will become everybody's best friend, because there are people, when they drop out and they need a last minute speaker, we all have our special people we call on to help us out. But it's nice to have people proactively, and we always like fresh, new ideas anyways. You can even combine speeches. For example, I was trying to think of when I told somebody about today. A friend of mine up in Canada, in Vancouver, is going to be doing something fun for us next Saturday. He's going to be doing interviewing and active listening and Q&A, all as being a mock podcast interviewer. So he's going to get 3 done in one night. And you can also do speeches outside of Toastmasters. If you do this at your church, your volunteer community, your leadership group, or your industry, you can give your speeches outside of Toastmasters. Typically, just talk to your VPE, make sure they're aware of it. If they want to attend, they can. If they can't, you can probably get them the Zoom recording. And by the way, I told Virginia, and later I'll tell any of you off camera, how to secretly record anything you want on your computer. So you can record them. And if the project is too big, break it down. Put it into bite-sized pieces. Break it down and make it manageable. Don't become overwhelmed by the size of a project. Break it down, break it down, break it down until you are able to feel that you can succeed, because that's your number one impetus for achieving a goal, is believing that you can do it. And the last thing I'm going to ask you is, make sure that when you give a speech, it is worth speaking about. There's your pressure right there. Make sure that what you're saying isn't just talking to yourself, because you can do that in your shower. Talk to me. Talk to each other. Make sure it's something we want to hear, because if we're communicating only with ourselves, we're not communicating. So some of the projects in this final part are moderate a panel discussion. If you don't have all the answers, why not bring your experts onto a panel? And not only you learn from them, but have your whole club learn from them. Deliver social speeches. I mentioned you can use for giving thanks. You can also use them, like we do in one of our other clubs, to welcome a brand new member. What a wonderful way to make them feel welcome. Before their induction, introduce them to the club. Otherwise, we're just voting on a name. We don't know this person. And it makes the new member feel valuable. They feel involved. They kind of have some Obligation to participate now that they know all about you. So deliver social speeches can be used for a lot of different areas. And then reflect on your path is not just a report on what you did, but what you learned and how you would inspire someone else to take their path and use it for their purposes. And with that, that is your plan. Do your icebreaker about your plan, not about you. Ask for help, honesty, and assistance. Repeat anything if you need to or want to. And you do not have to do the projects in order. And I know VPEs don't like to hear that, but as long as you complete your levels within the year, whatever order, and you submit them by the end of May, then your club gets all the credit. So it's mainly just an award thing through Toastmasters. So do them in the order that makes sense for your project to get done in the way it has to be done for you to make sense of it. And as I said, do as many of the projects as you want. You paid for them, and just schedule to get her done, and then you will have success.